Welcome back, everybody. We're here at the Tiger Dome for more of the LCK Summer 2019 Finals. Speed Valdez with Papa and LS. And so far, it's been a landslide once again in favor of SKT. They are just dominating every other team here in the LCK so far, and looks like it might just be another repeat of spring as we're looking down the barrel of a potential 3-0 for SKT.
It'll be that until it isn't. And we're going to need some big adjustments from Griffin, mostly on the gameplay side, which is obviously a lot harder to change game on game. Their drafts, well, they haven't inspired amazing faith. They've actually been coaching and had win conditions we weren't treated to, as we might be rolling straight into game number 3.
They are not messing around. The script is going to stick to schedule. Papa, all right?
We had some pauses earlier.
Yeah,
we need to get back on schedule. As speaking of which, Griffin chose red. So once again, we are having SKT on blue, and I wouldn't be surprised if once again we get the same bans.
There will be the same 3 bans from SKT if things don't change from Griffin. Because guess what? Things don't change, it's going to be a 3-0. So action on to Griffin here. They made the adjustment of changing jungle pick, and it didn't matter. Even though Sejuani and Elise are not cut from the same cloth, they pretty much were the same in terms of output. SKT changes nothing. Action on to Griffin.
Let me guess. Aatrox. Oh, okay. I'm not. Sorry.
You're not me.
I'm a play-by-play. I should know my place.
I was gonna guess Akali.
It was the same thing for 2 games in a row with the Aatrox coming in 6th, but I got baited so hard.
This is the 500 IQ play here, where now you pick the Aatrox, and then SK Telecom counters with Gangplank, and then you regret picking the Aatrox.
The what?
What?
Well, Griffin's changing more than we might have first presumed, because they don't care about giving both A's over. Kali and Aatrox might both be available for SK Telecom, and usually in these scenarios, they just take both. Ezreal prized away from Teddy to remove one of those hypermobile champions. Tarzan wants to return to what didn't work in game number 2 in the Elite, so it's 2 denial picks from the side of Griffin.
I mean, from where I'm sitting, you're talking about A's. With everything that SKT's getting, they might just get an A+ on their report card for this draft. We'll have to wait and see what FLICKR's going to lock in. I don't think it's going to be Zach, but already Akali Aatrox is looking mighty fine.
We'll have to see if the Zach is going to be the one to accompany it. It's not. It will be the Sejuani. And does this mean that No, they're hovering Jace immediately, but it could be a mid lane Jace for Chovy. But this all could have been a cruel ploy to get the Mordekaiser against the Aatrox. And if that's the case, you have to wonder, why wasn't this the strategy from the get-go in game number 1? And we'll see now what the next bans end up having, because I'm still imagining that you want the Jace in the mid lane and then the Mordekaiser up in top.
So why not just ban Mordekaiser? Something that SKT will be considering. Very, very real pick, and they know Chovy is happy to take Jace into the mid lane. Been much more of a mid lane pick more recently, after being top lane for the better part of forever. Seems like there's going to be some bans, so you would imagine Kaiser Zaya might be sent the way of Teddy to force him to go to a lower tier champion, but he could always roll back one of his old favorites. The Kallista's something he's playing around with in solo queue.
We'll have to see what SKT's bans are going to be. I think it'll give us an idea of where their head is at, as Kennen is going to be the first one to go away. They're just going to follow this up with a Renekton. And then that would be a Glass Cannon Elise left over for all of the magical damage.
Renekton ban removes that duo lane that SKT used so well in the mid lane in game number 1, and removes the reliability of some of Elise's power, so I like what you're selling on that. See if SKT's buying.
Yeah, and they have magic damage within the comp already with Elise and some of Ezreal, but it looks like SKT do not agree, and they will say, okay, no Ezreal, Tom Kent's instead.
Ready for Braum or what?
I'm ready for what, not Braum.
Are you ready?
I'd like a what instead of that, yeah.
Slam the Mordekaiser, last pick Sin support.
I could get down with that.
They're last picking for support, or
There's the Renekton.
is there a world where Lehends rolls back his support Elise?
Ooh.
One of his most famous climbing champions next to
Oh,
top
man.
lane Singed was support Elise. That would be a real blast from the past.
As there is the Kalista. Oh, never mind.
You called it one pick early.
I called it. Oh,
That's sometimes when you skip chapters, LS.
turn the page a little too soon.
Yeah.
You're getting too excited over there. As, well, they'll get their Glacials, and they'll get probably the best available support
What
that was
type
left
of
over.
comp would you describe this as, Elise?
This one out of SKT?
Yeah.
This is well, the Kalista and the Sivir are two very different
That's true.
themes.
I saw Sivir and I saw Teamfight late game Dream.
Yep.
Kalista would be a bit more respect to the early game, and so would Lucian. Bit of a gasp, audibly, from the crowd.
I'm not a fan of Lucian as opposed to Draven. I'm more of a Draven kind of guy.
Not everyone subscribes. Schalke, for example, upset, not a big Draven player.
We saw the matchup actually last night in Rogue versus Schalke.
It works if Clid goes bot lane a lot. Spoilers against the other Draven pickers, that's what he did.
Ooh,
And
Shen.
we do get a change here. And who's going into the support role? It will be Lehends on this Shen in this game. So the playmaking that brings, kind of an LCK favorite. We have had support Shen ever since Sandbox, are playing it a lot in spring season.
And the Shen is going to be really, really insane for helping the Elise get the picks and get the ganks off in the later stages. Shen, he's been one of the unsung champions that is cropping up lately in the meta. We haven't seen him all that much, but he did get a little bit of a steroid back in his kit.
So really interesting, because battle lines are drawn in terms of the junglers. Consider this, you have Sejuani with two melee laners to have great permafrost gank synergy. When we see that often, we expect a topside focus. And we have Renekton Elise and the Shen flash taunt to open up Elise bot lane as well. So it almost feels like in draft, SKT have like a standing promise to go top lane and probably receive no negative attention that way. Meanwhile, Griffin best served going mid lane and bot lane.
Well, it's going to be hard-pressed for Griffin if they can't accrue enough of an advantage for the Elise early on, because otherwise all their damage is just going to be negated in the mid-game, and they don't really have a leg to stand on in the late game.
Yeah, well, we'll have to wait and see if Tarzan this time around in game number 3 can actually make something happen for his team early on. So far, it's been all Clid and SKT as we hop into the rift for game 3.
It's do or die.
Well, that Griffin cheer came at the worst possible time as Lehends had to flash away.
Trade flashes. Effort did flash as well.
Okay. So, at the end of the day, not the biggest deal, but Griffin going to be cheering and trying so hard to get their team back into the series. So far, it's been all one team. That's not necessarily what we like to see. We were talking about a stat before, Papa Smithy, how almost every LCK Summer Finals has been either a 4 or 5 game series. Not too many 3-0s.
The only other LCK Summer Final played in this venue was the only 3-0 4 years ago. SKT over KT is a replay of the level 1. Heavy chase onto Lehends and a trade of flashes after Effort flashed in for his passive proc. Notice that the advanced vision lead was from SKT. They've got vision on the enemy blue, but Doran gets vision.
Oh, Doran. That's...
This all just feels terrible.
At least
right
he's
now,
able
if you're
to
Griffin.
flash and not die. But either way, still a mistake
Oh, man.
from our young top laner.
Then the easy reason to say that the flashes being traded equally is advantage SKT, as we talked about how SKT want to play topside. Well, now they have flash advantage in that lane, allows them to play that. If Griffin want to make a play around bot side and not just be relentlessly ganking in Akali mid lane, well, Shen doesn't have taunt flash anymore, so his threat level is way lower on this Shen pick. So for a lot of how the game is expected to play out, these trades do suit SKT early game.
And the early game trades as well. I mean, when Lehends is missing his flash early on, that's actually a pretty big deal for Shen. Being able to land his flash taunts and create these picks early on in the game to get those accelerations going, just not going to be there. And now with Doran not having his flash in the Jace Atrox matchup, it's a lot of freedom that's granted over to SKT, and it's a headache for Tarzan now.
Yeah, I mean, he was supposed to be the guy holding the reins and getting his lanes ahead, but when your lanes are already in an awkward and behind spot, what can you do? He's trying to say, well, I can kill the enemy jungler, as he has hunted down Clid, and he's going to land the cocoon. The flash on Clid. He's able to smite. Will it get him to safety? One more Q is going to come in, and Tarzan has found a way to get his team ahead.
Looking for more here, looking for the turret. I remember Kahn has flash.
There are so many minions over here. He's able to draw out at least the teleport. No repel here from Tarzan.
Oh,
boy. Kahn's got his flash. He's going in. You can tell. Here comes Doran, though. Repel comes back up. Able to get over there. And now Chovy comes on in. And Kahn's in an awkward spot. That's a lot of damage with FLICKR. Finds the shuriken into the back line. And now Clid is back. He wants to make the fight SKTs. And it looks like he might just be able to. FLICKR able to slow down Chovy with that red buff. And SKT are able to salvage a very awkward spot.
And I mean, this is a huge turnaround for them. All of the early game pressure now is going to be mitigated. Chovy, he's going to take a bite out of Clid. Teleport coming in.
It never ends, does it, here in game 3? As it's going to miss, but it doesn't matter. That will be a solo kill given over to Chovy, who waits in the brush and gets it to happen.
And this is the palette cleanser we're looking for in game number 3. And importantly, no sign of mental boom like there was for Sandbox into Damwon in our 2 previous game 3s. Good to see Griffin playing aggressive. We thought we'd see it in game number 2 with the change in jungle matchup. We're getting it in game number 3.
Gold score even right now at the top, but definitely a massive change of pace from game number 1 and 2. And just a beautiful cocoon out of Tarzan. Clid does what he can to live. Repel, though, comes out. And the kill goes down. And realistically, I thought everything would end after FLICKR teleports in. But Kahn able to combo this really well. Pulls Tarzan back in. Tarzan, he was able to live from this via his repel.
Watch the shuriken here from FLICKR. When Tarzan comes back, he finds him. He's able to get that kill. And that's really what makes it the 2-on-2 into eventual 3-on-2 for SKT. If he doesn't get that kill, I think Griffin come ahead pretty far in the trade.
Double buffs on the exit there, but this was the further kill on top of that. Was that just an apparition in the top right of the screen? Who's to say? TP back to the mid lane for Doran, who can easily walk up. It means no exit strategy available. Nice third kill there for Griffin.
Coming back now into live Griffin, they have a slight gold advantage. Now, the unfortunate thing for both of these parties is that Ocean Dragon's the first one of the game. So definitely a little bit anticlimactic in light of how much action we've had so far in this game. Doran, he has a CS advantage right now up in top lane, but the wave is coming in. Clid is in close proximity. But Griffin, these aren't enough advantages. They definitely need more, and they need to get Elise going because she's going to be so crucial in the mid-game transition.
And so far, after all those flashes and action in the early game, we have been able to slow down a little bit after that one. A bunch of gold in the pockets of the mid laners. Mostly you can see the two of them are 1-0 and 1. Get to Kali 2 or Seekers. Arm guard a little bit faster. Makes that Renekton matchup a little bit easier to handle. But either way, just sitting back here. We're also taking a look at the bottom lane, which, you know, we saw a lot of great stats on the side of SKT for the champions that were picked for everything except Lucian. Teddy's only 1-1 in summer, that is, on this Lucian so far.
Dream for Griffin is they're able to crack the bot lane turret park the Ezreal, Jace in the mid lane for a siege as Tarzan and Clid once again.
Here we go again. Feels like we've seen this before. Clid does have his flash. He is going to try to get to the plant, and he will get there. FLICKR now. Awkward spot is going to be able to perfect execution away, though. So definitely a win there to Griffin, who, although it's not their favorite drink, are now looking to take down this Ocean.
We'll amp up Doran's laning phase into the Aatrox and allow him to pressure a bit further, so they'll take advantage where they can get it. Clid flashing away and no ultimate available will guarantee that. And again, game plan is a little bit different from normal in that you want to park the top lane Jace in the mid lane with Ezreal and Siege, and have the Renekton play the side lane with Shen back up on the Stand United. So lane assignments will be a bit more fluid as the game goes on. All about using that Ezreal timing that, as we know, comes in at that 2-item mark.
Early on, it is important to note that Griffin, now with the Ocean Dragon, they're still going to need to secure more advantages. They want to get the Rift Herald at 10 minutes. The Shen finally has Stand United online. It's also important to note, he has the ultimate Hunter rune. It's not that common in pro play, but he wants to keep getting those takedowns so that he can get that Stand United up more often, and then use it to make plays across the map and try to keep accelerating, because it's so important for Griffin.
Speaking of making plays, Tarzan is back on the map, and he's got Chovy following him up. We do have Lehends with the Stand United as well. You were talking about the Cocoon will be flashed, but is the damage too much? Repel comes in, and the Stand United will keep Tarzan healthy. Clid in an awful spot, but Doran is going to be able to survive as well. That is a fantastic gank from the side of Griffin, getting the 2 kills.
Really well put together by Griffin. Practiced, calculated, no way for FLICKR to respond. His teleport was about 10 seconds off cooldown when the play was almost done. And they also respect on the bot side any reverse play. For the first time this series, and maybe since the best of 5s rolled around, a well-conceived plan by Griffin has no clear counterplay for SKT.
So the cost of this, in the end though, is they lost a turret plate in mid, they lost a mid-minion wave as well, and then they gave 2 turret plates over to Teddy. So they got a lot of advantages up there in the top lane. Doran also getting a lot of damage onto the top tier 1 turret as well, but it's not like it came for free. There was a loss there that ended up being absorbed.
But I think that'll be hard to explain to the players, because think about how great it feels to have actually put together a proactive play for the first time this series in many ways, right? Just that feeling of, I killed that guy. Yes, if you want to exhaust all the thoughts, it is a trade where you're like kind of 60-40, maybe advantage, maybe less. But in terms of where the series was at, with like their and a hand in their mouths in many ways, this is a big move for them.
How far ahead is FLICKR in XP? Chovy still level 8 after this wave.
Red buff.
Just ping 9, okay.
And the red buff means swap. That's a 5th of a level, a little bit less than that, so not a meaningful amount in the end.
Yeah. At the end of the day, you guys were talking about, you know, the trade-off in the end, but Griffin will come ahead at the end of all of those plays at 11 minutes here, about 1,500 gold ahead, so should be feeling pretty good. We saw Clid hanging around, or actually that was the Braum effort, hanging around the mid lane, seeing if maybe counter gank or something like that, but either way, we had a lot of action, another dive, and I'm just glad to see Tarzan making plays and ganking for his lanes and getting them really far ahead, as now Doran, he's owning that top lane after the way the early game went.
Gotta say, Doran is happy to play aggressive lane matchups wherever his mental state is at. It's something we can say for a very young player, very confidently, I think. Shuriken does hit in the mid lane. Effort coming in to get some of his stacks here. Open up the vision control as well.
I like the timing that Effort is out of bot lane on. Comes in, allows the Akali to reestablish priority. Lucian doesn't really need him right now down in bottom. And they're able to get vision control around the left-hand side and dissuade any sort of aggressive attempts focused around mid or top.
Timing wasn't up on the Stand United, a couple of seconds away, and there will be 2 stacks of Ultimate Hunter for the next ultimate cooldown. He'll be a little bit more forgiving Remember, there were Shen buffs on this patch, but more for a top lane Shen with the Q damage buffs.
Yeah. We're taking a look at Tarzan. He's not looking for the kill just yet, but now with Chovy here and the Shen, they're going for it, you best believe. 3-on-1. Making it look really easy. FLICKR, though, trying to come in here with Clid, but again, Stand United available. And that will shut down any kills from coming down.
Whoa!
And Teleport available now to get back to the bottom side for this Renekton. So this time, Griffin get a couple of wins, and they don't lose much for it.
SKT look very out of practice against support Shen and against this extra global. Off cooldown, Griffin is making the play again and again, and they're trading up in doing so. So this is actually a very accomplished early game with the support Shen. We've seen them sit on ultimate for a long time, but off cooldown, they've got a lot of global advantages, knocking down all plates out of the upper top lane, the outer top lane turret, and also keeping their bot lane outer turret in a losing matchup relatively healthy.
Yeah, and the other thing, I really like what you mentioned about the Shen. It does really look like SK Telecom are not practiced against it. They're calling in FLICKR's teleport, and Clid is over here as well. And all that Griffin had to do was press R on their Shen, and it shut down the entire play. Yes, Ezreal is behind almost 30 CS, but Griffin, they have the tempo advantage right now in the game. They have roughly a 3,000 gold advantage as well.
And here's what we'll say. If this was the game number 2, which we kind of expected we might see when the Elise was locked in, we'd be talking about how we might have a series. And while there's so much more water under the bridge with them still needing to close out a game just to not be 3-0'd, this is the sort of Griffin look we've been hoping and praying for all night.
Absolutely, and at the end of the day, you mentioned the Ezreal behind, but he's a AD carry that doesn't exactly need a ton of items. We talked about this before in the bottom side. He gets his 2-item power spike, he's going to be just fine. Meanwhile, elsewhere on the map, the Jace, the Renekton, the Elise, all enjoying leads. Feeling pretty good about the game state right now. SKT able to get up there and pick up Shelly, the Rift Herald. And in the end, it just ends up being the trade of the turrets. As in the bottom lane, we did have a bit of action coming in here. Saw that on the mini-map, but they are able to trade the turrets in the end.
And it's very problematic that the Jace...
Actually, it's up. It's actually still up down here in the bottom lane.
The Jace has picked up so much turret gold and is going the flat pen sieging build. If you see something like Blade of Ruin King into a Black Cleaver, that's about trying to burst down a tank. This is very much about EQs under turrets for the Siege game that we said Griffin most wants to play. Seems like that Siege game will be online at the appropriate time, and SKT's only option to a Jace Ezreal Siege is to hard engage or watch their turrets go down.
And with Infernal Dragon coming up in 3.5 minutes, that's probably going to be a game-deciding team fight, most likely. I really doubt that SK Telecom are just going to freely give it up. Something would have to go catastrophically wrong within the next 2 minutes for something like that to end up happening. And inside of that fight, though, Teddy is going to need to really show up the way that SKT has sometimes called upon him in certain team fights in order to salvage the game state, because it's really going to be in his hands.
I think it's going to be up to him and also FLICKR, because right now he has picked up that Hextech Gunblade. You notice that he's doing pretty well in the mid lane. In the top lane, Kahn has been able to fight back a little bit, but still definitely heavily Griffin favored in this game for now. Especially that very scary Renekton in the mid lane, 2-0-2 Chovy. Level 12. I think it's the highest level in the game currently. Yes, he is.
And SKT can't really contest vision right now because you're against double pen jungle item Tarzan, and you're against flat pen stacking Doran, and you know, Chovy does a lot of physical damage as well. So impossible to be tanky. If you face check the CC chain of the Elise Renekton was introduced so well by FLICKR and Clid in game number 1. So SKT have to be very early with their vision and also respectful if they drop it.
Well, we all know what Tarzan's favorite lane is. Has been the top lane for this entire game, which is kind of funny because you were just mentioning FLICKR and Clid doing the Renekton Elise. They ganked mid a lot of the time, but it was against a Sylas, which is a bit easier to gank compared to the Akali. So they just make it work on the top lane with the Shen instead. So far has been very effective. But we are entering kind of a lull state, if you will, for now. But as you mentioned, shouldn't last for too long. We got Infernal coming up here in a minute 30, and neither of these teams are going to be looking to let that one go. But if you're SKT, how do you really approach this fight when Griffin is about 4,000 gold ahead?
Well, I think that the real question is going to be not how much gold are they ahead, but where are the items actually sitting? Because as long as Lucian can get a recall off, get the Black Cleaver, which he did just complete.
Old school style, right?
Yeah,
the Blade of Ruin King Black Cleaver coming back.
Yeah, and if Aatrox can also get an item completion before this next fight, if Griffin is ahead 3,000 gold, but all of their champions are pooling 700, then the on-field battle stats aren't really representative of any sort of a difference, in SKT potentially on even footing.
Especially because team fight-wise, you kind of take SKT in account in terms of the lineup they have. The items are the tipping point, and also some of the early power spikes for Griffin. However, giving up some of your top lane control for setting up the vision to actually fight for Infernal is what SKT have to do because they're behind, and that's why they're making these vision missions before Griffin is pushed up.
Oh boy, FLICKR, you knew he was down here, but you're gonna get baited anyway. Already extremely low in the bottom side, baiting in Clid, but let's see if Kahn can come over here and help. Already SKT so low before the fight for the Infernal even starts here, as Griffin on the hunt. You can see Chovy looking for the Akali. As Kahn, not sure where you're going, buddy. The entire Griffin team nearly was down there, and FLICKR is going to be able to back away at least, but Kahn giving away a free kill. Chovy does have to flash away. That's an awkwardly placed culling, but at least Chovy did have to flash there, but Griffin coming ahead big after this one. Infernal and a ton of pressure on the map.
The Infernal Dragon, it's so big, it's amplifying all of their damage, especially because the Elise wants to be Glass Cannon. And in addition to that, she has 33 magic penetration right now with her itemization. There's no magic resist almost present on the side of SKT. She's almost hitting everyone for true damage, and she's the only source of magic, so she's gonna actually keep scaling, oddly enough, into the later stages of this game.
And it makes her so relevant even in a siege, right? Because the QWs are going to be popping people, and the Ezreal will do the rest of the work. Chovy's behind FLICKR.
FLICKR doesn't seem to mind too much. Looks like he'd like to get that Dominus away. Here it comes. And Chovy's looking for the kill, actually, but perfect execution. Comes out. It's going to be a big amount of damage traded back onto FLICKR. Both of them will blow their ults. FLICKR hits level 13 to reach parity with that Renekton, but this was the play that Tarzan was able to make that got Griffin so ahead in the fight.
Playing with fire a little bit because Griffin were happy to back up their team and also aggressive with the game position where it was. So, I gotta say, Griffin are backing up. This game number 3 in a way we just couldn't have foreseen. FLICKR's backing, role-playing a Krug in this case. It's so weird for Kahn to eat over the wall here when FLICKR's making an escape that does kind of watch over one of the potential entrances to red.
Yeah, that's going to be one play that he'll try to not show people on the highlights if SKT do end up winning this one, but it's definitely not over yet. I remember talking about before Game 2 how Griffin had to show something to make this a series. They didn't show much in Game 2, but it's not too late. It's never over till it's over. We're here in Game 3. Griffin are very dominantly, proactively making plays and getting ahead. And if this Griffin comes out 3 games in a row, you never know who's going to end up winning this series. So hold your horses, guys. This one ain't over.
And if it does actually get to a Game 5 and the threat of a reverse sweep, the last reverse sweep in an LCK final was the Wet for Esports Zed versus Zed blind pick game in 2013 summer. 6 years later, we can't have Zed versus Zed anymore, but we could have some fireworks for sure.
Well, in this game, 5,500 gold lead right now. Ocean Dragon will put a little bit, will rain on our parade a little bit.
Oh boy.
Okay, well, you know what? Kahn, find enemy line.
Take a look at Sen 2, Lehends and Doran heading to the Baron, just denying vision, saying, no, you can't rush Baron after this. Kahn is so dead. There's nothing to say there. He gets out of position, outmaneuvered by Chovy, and again, he's going to die for his 5th death in game number 3.
Weren't able to get anything on the map there. SKT either, with that time investment and no real threat onto the Baron. So they walk over. Neutral vision for now around the Baron, but it's another nice moment there coming through for the side of Team Griffin. They got all their teleports up. Doran's is down, but they have 2 teleports and a Stand United, remember, on the side of Griffin.
Right now, 1.5 minutes until the next Ocean Dragon will end up coming up. But Griffin, they're looking really well positioned to be able to even convert their current team composition, not even just into sieging, but if they get a pick, it's very, very easy for them to just start Baron.
Absolutely. I mean, you take a look at Chovy, who was 2 levels ahead of FLICKR. FLICKR finally hits 14. He's kind of getting all of those wins on the side of Griffin. He's been part of 6 of the 8 kills so far. And you can't really just run through. There's no really, meaty underside of this Griffin comp. Even the Ezreal can get out of dodge even if FLICKR finds the backline. So it's not going to be easy for SKT to come back in this one. It's looking really good for Griffin so far.
It's a big gold lead, about 6,000. There's an Infernal there. We already know that makes it even more impactful. But actually, there's some items we should talk about if we get a moment to. Lehends was posturing for a flank. There's redundancy in some of SKT's items. They have double Black Cleaver, which, yes, can stack it up the first time faster, but obviously there's going to be some lost effectiveness, you would imagine, in a team fight phase. And the Griffin itemization is so clean with a fed Elise, allowing the physical damage dealers to either prosper themselves if they see magic resist, or the Elise to delete people. So I feel like it almost is kind of an effective 10k gold lead or more at this point, that while there might be some good news later for SKT, it feels like a lot later, and it'll be never if Griffin have their way.
Well, we're getting started here on the first Baron of the game. It's almost 25 minutes in, and SKT, they're going to have to face check this, and they're so far behind.
Here we go!
Coming on in, Lehends with that blast taunt is going to get them ahead to start this off, but getting low is the Jace.
Teddy!
SKT trying to show up in this one. Down should go Tarzan. Last stand be denied as Chovy trying to be blasted on, but will get away on the blasting plant. FLICKR not going to chase after that one, so Griffin, they get the Baron and only lose 2 for it.
They get the Baron, they only lose 2, which is a really close call. There's definitely a universe where Chovy goes down there, as well as Lehends even. But it's not this one, as now Baron taken off the map. But the question for me is, with the death timers, with just the entire tempo being put a damper on it, what is Griffin going to do? They're only really going to probably get about 1.5 minutes worth of Baron. What can they achieve with that? And interestingly enough, it might not be that bad for SKT.
Wait and see if they can use their siege tools and the Baron minions in order to get more. I actually think Griffin can get away with this Baron because they have such a gold lead, because they end up taking a pretty funnel 5v5 fight against a comp that loves team fights. You got Akali, Aatrox, Sejuani first round. You get a couple of supports in the bot lane, it would still be a great team fight comp. So because the items are not done for SKT, people like Chovy don't die. That honestly should go down in a play like this, and it ends up better than maybe Griffin deserved.
Either way, at the end of the day, Griffin's still going to be enjoying this lead for now, but as LS was talking about right now, it's 1:45. You talked about 1:30 for them to really utilize the Baron. That starts right now, so they have a nice gold lead, but they got to do something with it here. Looks like they're going to split Chovy into the bottom side, level 16 with the teleport. We did have the gold numbers up on screen a little while ago, and the guy who's behind the most is actually Kahn, which makes sense because he's been off the map so much with the amount of times he's been dying, and he's so behind on CS. He only has the 4 assists, so even the Jace being 3,000 gold ahead of him and the Renekton even farther ahead, he is not going to have an easy time, and we'll just have to sit back under turret and try to farm.
Well, this is looking like the Baron's probably not going to achieve anything. And so what this means is that Griffin, they're going to get their third Ocean Dragon and then have to wait for Elder. And that's going to become the major big objective for them to capture. But there's still a real chance, if you're an SKT fan, you're watching this, Teddy can put on a show around when that Elder would end up spawning, or the next Baron. SKT, even though they are behind, they're down, but they're not out.
Waiting to see if they can even crack an inner turret here with the Baron buff. 25 seconds left on the duration. Only 1,000 gold lead, remember. 1,500 gold is picked up just for killing the Purple Worm. They get double inner turrets. That was a very important ending to the Baron buff play and does allow them to actually get a meaningful gold lead here. The side of Griffin.
I like what they did there. They were showing a rotation to the bottom side, and they're just bullying Kahn, who's so far behind, as I was talking about, even more. Just saying, if you stand their turret, you're going to die, buddy. So they already had a nice push in mid. They group up as 4 there. Severin exit bot. Rotate bot side, get that inner. Rotate back to mid with the next wave. Pick up that inner. And at the end of the day, it wasn't a massive Baron power play, but it still means that Griffin have a pretty tight hold on this game for now.
Gold lead hasn't ballooned, but it is 7,500 or so, which is obviously super comfortable for Griffin, who are very much in their power spike part of their item timings. There probably isn't really too much relative gains with further items here. Both teams are piecing them together. Finny Edge almost done for Teddy, which will allow him to perhaps puncture through some of the frontliners from the side of Griffin.
We'll see what ends up happening. SK Telecom, they're free to keep scaling for the time being into their next core item completions. There's no major neutral coming up for another minute and a half, and that's just going to be the Barons. They don't need to stop the Ocean Dragon. It's completely irrelevant. Getting a 30-minute Ocean Dragon does nothing for SKT.
And that does allow SKT to put all of their efforts into trying to get some sort of Baron vision, because you can just assume that someone will solo down the Ocean. Baron is one they can't afford. They give up, and even just getting down the Rift Scuttle here does get them a lot of guaranteed vision that can't be swept by Griffin.
Now we saw the way that team fight went the last time around, with Griffin kind of in an awkward spot, just grouping up for, that perfect team fight that SKT's team comp loves. If that happens again, even though the Aatrox is so far behind, if he gets rolling and, resetting and doing all this fun stuff with an Akali in your back line, if the game goes long enough and SKT can hold on, certainly is not over just yet.
Kahn has abandoned the Death's Dance rush and gone for Sterix to just try to be a frontliner for longer, is the theory behind that. Redemption used to clear the minions largely from the side of Griffin. That's very creative, but Ezreal does have wave clear issues.
SKT just grouping up as 5 in the mid lane, and now they're actually trying to find Tarzan. What's he doing there? Able to get away for now. Jeff Baker, who did use his ultimate, but they get the TP away from just Viper at the end of it all. So not the greatest loss for Griffin. Almost turned into a nice little snipe there by Baker, but the blasting plant was the guy who stopped it all.
Very high priority for Chovy to kill the Ocean Drake just to get Elder to spawn.
Lehends has to flash to get away from Teddy. I know there's one guy in this game that doesn't want to lose. That's the man on your screen down there. Teddy almost able to solo down Shen.
And now Elder Dragon will have its timer started 5 minutes until it will end up coming up. If Griffin can get that, it's a massive one with 5 elemental dragons behind it. Baron, it's live on the map right now. Kahn, he's level 16 now. He has the Sterix. Not sure how far away he is from any other recipe items, but Doran, he may as well just be at his endgame. He has all of the lethality items with a Black Cleaver. This whole game is really going to come down to how much of a beefy front line and peeling can be provided for Teddy, and can FLICKR get clean executions It's really Griffin's game to lose right now. We'll see what SKT can do.
Well, I put all my time into counting how many long swords were in Doran's build. The answer's 12, so he's got a lot of long swords going on there. I'm into what I'm into.
It's a lot of Dirks.
You're into long swords?
It's my favorite LS, long sword.
All right.
But just looking at where this game is currently poised, the value of getting this Elder Swarm can't be overstated. It's mid lane. This could be it.
We're looking for Viper. He has to blow his Arcane Shift and the flash to get away from that one. Small little win will go the direction of SKT.
A comp like SKT that has to team fight, wants to fight over one objective, so Elder Swarming early is big.
Oh, nice check by Doran.
Oh boy. Game on a knife's edge, even though Griffin are so far ahead in gold. And now they have that power of the poke you were talking about. The Ezreal and the Jace really putting it to SKT.
But they don't have engage. They don't have force. Cocoon isn't going to matter this late into the game. They need the enemy to come to them. Something like Elder, something like Baron would achieve that.
You know, interestingly enough, though, War of Attrition massively favors Griffin.
And it does. They're holding on here for the long haul. As a TP comes in again from the side of SKT, but they're just not starting the Baron here. Effort able to get that Unbreakable up and get to safety. But as you mentioned, LS, Griffin are just sitting here and baiting.
Minion pressure bot lane suits them. SKT walk up!
They found him, they got the guy they were looking for. Anybody on the side of SKT would do, and they found one. As in goes FLICKR, looking for the last stand here. As,
Chovy?
Okay, Chovy in a little bit of trouble, but he does have his GA. And down will go FLICKR. Griffin looking to push in now and take down the members of SKT. In goes Lehends, and everybody on SKT is routed, just trying to get away. Nice little dodge on the shock blast, but we're diving here. They're gonna find Clid, and it looks like we have a series actually, as Griffin will not be going down without a fight.
Oh, Teddy. Oh, Minion.
Stan United are going to keep him alive. This should be the end of the game. Teddy only one alive. Kahn up in 10 seconds. But what can he really do to stop the entire squad of Griffin?
Well, he's got his ultimate, but it's still 5 seconds away from even respawning. The turrets are falling, and it looks like Griffin are not going to go down without a fight. We will have a game number 4 coming up right after this.
Big victory from the side of Team Griffin. SK Telecom T1 will not go through both playoff best of 5s in spring and summer undefeated. Griffin have their first game win against SKT in an LCK final after a streak that extended all the way to when they were sitting 2-1 ahead against KT Rolster 1 year ago. Big victory for them here, and largely off the back of a very different take on the jungle Elise. Game number 2, they drafted the aggressive jungler, but couldn't put it to any sort of value. Game number 3, the Fangs were finally out.
They were, and a lot of it came from, it was a lot easier to set up for the Elise in this game, and in addition to that, the Shen was such a big component to the early game plays. Stand United really messing with SKT at several points, gave Griffin the advantages that needed. They kept rolling the dragons, the Infernal went their way, no real way to itemize against Elise. A lot of things went their way. They managed to close it out in the very end.
And we come back to examining those moments where it was Griffin getting kills, but SKT getting plates, and I said, look, yes, there is some equitableness about this, but the aggressive mindset shift paid off with kills, and that feels good. That makes you confident. And to their credit, they kept doing things, which a lot of teams have rolled over in this, in fact, playoffs run against SKT. So let's not undersell how hard it is to pick yourself up off the ground with all the jinxes and all the fans jeering your presence by Griffin this game. And even if SKT stay on blue side and just add Shen to the ban list, something comes out from Griffin on that side. You still get a win. Maybe it's only a smirk, but it's a win.
I feel like CV Max went in the back, took out his belt, and snapped it a couple times. He's like, if you guys do what Sandbox and Dom1 did, you're not going to have a fun night later. As this was the end. It was just somebody had to face check, unfortunately, Aatrox.
I gotta say, the rest of the team was really far away from Aatrox walking up, though, so Not sure if the timings were on, and obviously he had been dunked in lane the entire game, so stuff like that gets tricky. And then from there, bit of a gold lead closeout, smack into the wallets as Atlas was pulled.
This was definitely a feels bad moment though for Teddy, who juked and dodged so many things and tried to do so much inside of the team fight, but unfortunately it was a 4v6 basically, and he could not do much to salvage this. So very uncharacteristic game of Kahn so far in this series.
Yeah, I mean, it's something that we, you know, in game number 2, he looked so confident, and he was the one making the plays. He was the one who got the MVP, and then to go from that high to this low is just astounding. But I understand because he got bullied so hard, and as we were talking about it, it finally felt like Griffin pulled out that dirty notebook from like 2 years ago, and they're like, oh, how about this Shen strat? Because finally they changed it up and they made something work, even on red side, going there for the second time on their pick. So interesting stuff. We actually do have a series. Will not be the 3-0. We'll see what happens after the break.
가자, 계속 가자, 계속 가자. 가자, 게임 끝낼까 보자. 게임 끝낼까 보자.
게임 끝내자.
탑으로 가자. 아, 미니언 제발. 기가타 텔레카 캔슬할게.
바트 15초. 아직 끝난 거 아니야?
아직 안 끝났어.
루시안 캐슬? 루시안 캐슬?
라인 넣자, 라인 넣자.
바트 5초.
나 구원 있어.
피관리 잘해.
끝내자.
아, 이거 그냥 공 쓰면 돼. 끝났어.
다음 병이 준비하자. 미안하다. CS를 너무 많이 흘렸어. 근데 우리 너무